Welcome to the Worth Listening podcast, where we focus on having positive and productive conversations about money. Join your host, Lauren Williams, four-time Olympian turned financial planner, as her guests share their money stories. We aim to help you own your personal money story and feel good talking about it. Money is a tool that can help you live the life you want. You should feel comfortable listening, sharing, and communicating about it. Now, here's your host, Lauren Williams.
Hi, thanks for joining us today. This week, I chatted with entrepreneur and former Marine, Jason Miller. Jason is a true testament of being the change you want to see. We begin with childhood memories of his parents paying a landlord and finish with him describing his current career in real estate. See what I mean? He shares with us how quickly his life changed when he got a DUI and the financial impact it had. I think many will identify with his story of facing setbacks and challenges along the path to reaching our goals. It was fun learning about him. All right, here's Jason's money memoir. Jason, it's so good to have you on Worth Listening today. Happy to have you from the DMV area, going to share all your knowledge with us. We're really excited to hear your money memoir. So we're going to start off by starting with the childhood. Start with, what was your first memory of money?
My first memory of money in the childhood probably was my mom telling me no to things I wanted. Growing up in the DMV area, I'm from like Oxy Hill, Maryland. So it's not like the greatest part of Maryland is right next to Southeast DC. So anybody that's from the area, they know like, yeah. But honestly, my first memory of money that I could really share is my mom and stepdad always talking about having to pay the landlord. And I never knew what a landlord was. And they'd be like, landlord, I got to pay the landlord. I got to pay rent. And I never knew. And then when I got older and I became a landlord and rent, as process, I was like, man, I finally know what they were talking about. My parents have been throwing all of this money to this guy and not owning. That's my biggest memory of childhood money. What I learned first was landlord and rent.
All right. So did you have siblings? What else did you have going on during childhood?
I have a ton of siblings. I grew up with my mom mainly. My mom got married, so I had my younger sister. And when she married my stepdad, my brother that lived with him became my stepbrother. And then he had older siblings, which about 3 or 4 of them. And then my actual biological father had 4 sisters and a brother from him. So total, it's about 11 or 12 of us. So around Christmas and the holidays, I always got somewhere to go.
I would say you should. So with so many different examples in your life, can you tell me, what did you see about money? What kind of examples did you have in your life of money with that kind of scenario?
When I was younger, it was all about obviously trying to look a certain way or live a certain way. And I would call me personally, I call it kind of like some Black people live like this, where they're living outside of their means. So a lot of my family grew up living outside of the means. We had to have a new car and new clothes and trying to keep up with this. But in reality, we really were not living in that lifestyle. And then as far as my outlook on money, my actual biological father, he was one of those people that always stayed with some cash in hand, always had some money on hand, but never really had a grasp on how much he really had. But he always found money. And then on the contrary, my mom, which I later got older and learned that she always found money, but at the same time, she always didn't have a good grasp on how to make her money grow or put her money in the right places. It was always get it, gone, living paycheck to paycheck. So I learned a lot of the rough way and taught myself a lot of the better ways.
Gotcha. So you would say your parents were an example of sometimes what to do and what not to do, or of more of what not to do?
I would definitely say more of what not to do. Definitely what not to do. And I'm blessed to have the knowledge to be able to take something of what not to do and turn it into what to do.
So take us a little bit through adolescent years, high school, what happened after that? And
okay, like I said, grew up in pretty much the Oxy Hill area. Football was everything. Football, more football, and started playing. And then I seen the light like, man, if I want to make it to college and I want to make it to the NFL, the dream, I got to play football. And that's pretty much what's kept me going through high school and everything, was playing ball. And it was funny because in high school, my high school coach, we had just got a new coach, so nobody likes the new guy. And he actually pulled me to the side and he was like, you know what, you're a really talented young man, but your grades are terrible. And I was in the 10th grade and I was like, grades? Who needs grades? I'm good. He was like, little do you know, I know nobody explains this, but to go to college, you're a student first. You have to get grades and then you'll go to college. So from that day on in 10th grade, I literally went from a 2.1 from every year after that to like a 3.2, a 3.5, and just keep going higher. And then by my senior year, I was about a 3.2 average student. Actually finally clicked like, oh, so I do need these. Okay. That was my check in the box for that. And I just knew I wanted a scholarship to go play football. Ended up graduating high school, getting a partial scholarship to Seton Hill in Greensburg, Pennsylvania, about 30 minutes outside of Pittsburgh. Went up there off season, training camp and everything, and got hurt in the beginning of the season. And then going into the following year, I was going back up there again for training camp to play ball again. And I think this was my first financial lesson was when I went up there. They were like, well, we want to have you come back, but we can't have you come back until you pay your full first year's tuition. And I'm like, I'm an 18-year-old kid. I'm like, I play football. Like my mom signed all the papers. She helped me. And they were like, well, you owe about $3,000 from last year. You just got to pay that and we'll get out the rest for the following year. And I'm looking at my parents like, all right, $3,000. Y'all should have it saved up somewhere, right? No. So it kind of like broke my heart. I couldn't return after my freshman year of literally 1 year of playing college football. And my drive home from college to home was my entire wake up call that not only did you bust your butt to do everything you could on your end as far as a high school student, high school athlete, but you're going to have to come up with financial ways to pay for yourself to get through college because your parents don't have the money and they didn't prepare you to have to pay for college or get whatever you had to do. So I would have had to get a full ride scholarship to get the education I wanted. So that was my big wake up call when I was like, I've done everything as a child could do or a kid could do in that standpoint, and you still wasn't enough. So that was like my big wake up call when I sat back and I was like, I'm going to have to figure out how to get to school on my own.
So how did you figure out how to get to school on your own? Is this the first opportunity where you had to really take control of your money and take control of finances in your own life?
Yeah, pretty much. At this point, I was driving home and I was literally just like, man, I was bummed, I tell you. So I was pretty upset. And then I went back home and there's a local mall, started working at the Finish Line, a shoe store, and it's close to the Pentagon. It's called Pentagon City Mall. So you would get a lot of military people in and out of there, in and out of there. And I would just work in the shoes. And then I would see all these military guys and they're coming in and buying all the Jordans and all the stuff. And sadly, I would say growing up in my environment, it was always frowned upon. Like, oh, don't go to the military. That's the man. That's not your war. And this and the third. And I'm like, man, I had bad influences. So I went on and started asking them, what is it about the military that's so good? Why are y'all doing this? And they just told me about the benefits. I can go to school. I can do this. And I was like, wow. So I started thinking, well, maybe I can join the military and go to school because clearly I'm not going to be able to do this any other way. So I sat back. I thought about it. And I said to myself, I'm going to try this. And I didn't even consult my parents or anything like that. So I went down to the recruiting office in high school. We had Air Force ROTC. So I went down there like, yeah, I'm going to join the Air Force. And long and behold, the good old Chair Force door was locked and they weren't there. But the Marines were right there. Just, hey, what are you doing? What are you looking for? And I'm like, no, not looking for you. And long story short, they ended up talking me into it, telling me about the same benefits and everything like that, that it's pretty much all the same thing. It's just what route you're going to take. And I kind of got the Marine Corps pump up, which was cool. And they were like, listen, man, I think you could really do this Marine thing. So I ran it past my mom. She was like, out of all of them, you really got to choose the Marines. I mean, if I'm going to do it, I might as well do it big, right? Joined the Marine Corps in 2007, shipped right off, did my boot camp, went off to Japan as my first duty station. And that's where honestly I learned a lot about myself because I was in a foreign country, away from home, really weirdly away from home, away from parents. And that's when you started getting your own income and how you balance your own money and learning a lot. You got thrift plans and all of these different things. I had no clue that existed. And I started learning and then started getting in contact with some other Marines that really had their heads screwed on with some finances. I'll never forget a guy named Kobe Scriber, one or the other. Kid from Seattle. He was always talking about finances and going to school and you should pay off all your debt. Things I were nowhere near thinking about. I was thinking about new Jordans and new clothes and I'm getting money now. But he kind of put me back on track. Like, nah, man, you said you wanted to join for school. So there I was. I started going back to school and slowly but surely paying off the other debt that I had from the previous school. And I should have paid it off a lot faster, but I still had to obviously buy my Jordans and other things I didn't need at the time. But I went on and I did that.
You went to high school, you got a partial scholarship to college, you're off and you're gung-ho about playing football in college. You get sent home, dreams and hopes dashed. but then you turn it all around by going to the military. You're saying that you still did have some student loans or some debt that you owed from that college experience. Was it a lot of debt or just a little bit?
It was about 6,000-7,000 in debt.
How did you think about that debt mentally? I know sometimes people have a hard time dealing with debt. He's like, I don't have the education to even show for this debt. But how did you emotionally deal with, I have to get this paid off and I got to get moving on with my life? What was your thought process there?
Honestly, I joined the military for one process to make sure I got an education and everything like that. And then, like I said, I wanted to get rid of debt. I should have paid it all off while I was in the military, but I kind of bits and pieced it. I'm going to still live my life. I'm living a little bit. So I bits and pieced it. I didn't get it all paid off until probably like a year after the military. But nonetheless, I got it all paid off slowly but surely. But I mean, my feelings on it were, I kind of took it like this is my debt. I chose to go to college and these are my issues and there's nobody else to point at. And I joined the military for that reason, saying that I was going to figure it out. So I just kind of went with it. You know what I'm saying? I didn't feel like, oh, I didn't get an education or anything like that. Eventually got it paid off, did my time in the military, met a lot of cool people. And then right after the military, I got out and ended up joining the police force at the Federal Reserve Police. So right back into more money. I didn't even know what the Federal Reserve was until I got the police job. And I was like, oh, this is where all the money comes from. So I learned a lot, bumped into a lot of good people there. So I started myself basically learning, had a pretty nice salary and came out working and making some money. And then I was living at home at the time between the military and getting a job. And I was kind of driving myself crazy because anybody knows once you move out on your own and you move back in with your parents, it's like, this is not going to work. So I just jumped right into getting an apartment. I went and got an apartment, which was like, oh yeah, I'm on my own and this and the third. And then all my coworkers was like, like, yeah, it's good to live on your own, but man, you got that VA loan, And I've heard a lot about it, and I was like, man, I really could use this VA loan. Let me look some more into how it works. Literally after the year my lease was about to be up, I told my parents, like, I'm gonna move back in for about 5 months. I'm going to figure out how to do this. I'm going to buy a house. So I did just that. I went in, filed for my VA loan.
When you had to move back in with your parents, what was the strategy there? Obviously, it's cheaper to live with your parents, but were you thinking stack every single dollar I can so that I can have enough money to get this house?
Yeah, pretty much. I was like, I'm spending about $1,100 a month in rent. And I remember going back to that same, like I said, childhood memory, that rent versus landlord. And I did the math, went online, did the calculations of how much it would cost with your interest, plus your monthly mortgage and everything, how much it would cost. I'm like, man, if I get a house in this range, I can pay $100, $200 more and I'll have my own spot and it'll be mine. It's not a 1-bedroom apartment. It'll be a house or whatever. So my mindset was go back in there, stack your money up, get a real estate agent, get approved, do the whole nine and find your property. So that's exactly what I did. I literally went back in there, did just that, and then come to find out and know that at VA, you don't have to have any money down. All the money that I saved up kind of went towards furnishing my house and stuff like that. I literally went back in there with the mindset, like, I'm going to move home enough to take care of what I got to take care of. And I did that.
Having moved back in with your parents, going to look for this home, what was the home buying process like for you? What age were you when you were buying the home?
I was 24, I believe. I was 24 when I started.
So most people are just graduating college, maybe 1 or 2 years out of college at that time, and you're becoming a first-time homeowner. How did you navigate that process? You said your parents hadn't owned anything, right?
Never, still to this day, do not own.
Who walked you through the process of buying a home and understanding what was right and what wasn't?
Well, a lot of coworkers. So being in the police, you come back around a lot of other military guys and stuff like that. And then kind of the Federal Reserve Police, it's a federal police agency, so it's not as run and gun like the street cops. So you get a lot of guys that have retired from the military or older that are in that police department. So they have more experience. So they was kind of like different guys that work with guiding me and let me know, yeah, man, you do this, not this, seek a loan officer and everything. And luckily, when I first got out of the military, when I first got a police job, I wanted to get back in football. So I started coaching high school football at Parkdale High School. And one of the other coaches, which became one of my mentors, Reggie Miles, he played quarterback in Grambling. He's a financial loan officer. So I was telling, hey, I want to buy a house. I want to buy a house to pretty much everybody that would listen. He was like, oh, that's what I do. I'll get you a loan, get you approved and everything like that. So he kind of helped me with what I need to do, what I need to do with my credit, what I need to show and stuff like that. Luckily, I didn't have bad credit or nothing like that. And he got me with a real estate agent and then started the searching process. So he really helped into guiding me what I needed and what I didn't need. So I would say definitely he played a big part in helping me find my first property.
Did they provide any guidelines, like how much house you could afford, especially like you said, with $0 down? I think one of the things people bump into a lot is somebody saying, you're approved for a $3 million home. And
Yeah,
But just because you're approved doesn't mean you should buy it, sort of things.
facts.
Did someone provide some guidance on how you should go about choosing the purchase price?
Well, not really. They gave me the range of what I was approved for, which was about like 260,000. Like I said, I had did the math before how much it would calculate to come around what I was paying in rent. And so when I did that, I knew my own budget was under 200,000. I was like, I don't want to go paying more than I was paying in rent. I like where that was. I was comfortable bouncing that. I set my own boundary, and luckily I found something at like 170. So, like I said, nice home, found everything I wanted in it. And when I was looking for houses, I did have this one guy that was working with me. He always talked about rental properties. He's like 60. He was a retired police officer and a retired MPD. He was like, yeah, I owned about 11 rental properties and this and that third and all this income that was coming in. So when I started thinking like, well, maybe my first property doesn't have to be a dream home. It doesn't have to be huge. It could just be a nice size home. I'm just a single male. I can manage and everything like that. So I got a property that I figured would be in a nice price range, but a nice rental area. And luckily, the one I got was really right next to an Air Force base. So it's in a hot rental area where I felt like a lot of experienced military that you're going to need to rent off base and stuff like that. So that was my thought process when I picked that one property that like, man, maybe this can be a rental one day when I have a wife and kids and move forward and go from there. So that was my process of thinking.
You're 24 years old, you're a homeowner, you're forward thinking about real estate in the future, rental properties in the future, but where are you financially as it pertains to thinking about things like budgeting and retirement? And are there any other things that you're doing during that time period to think about how to manage your money and how to make it grow to the best of its ability?
Nope, I'm 24 and I got a house and I'm balling. That's what I'm thinking.
So did you make some mistakes during that time period?
I made plenty of mistakes, but luckily, like I said, I didn't fall too far off. But at that time, I was just more so excited to have the house and things like that. So I'm buying furniture and different things, everything I need, getting another car. And I always had like not a frugal mindset, but a mindset that I need to stay within my own means. I never want to go less than this much in my bank account to make sure I'm balanced. But I mean, I had retirement in mind, but I was, like I said, at the police department, the retirement was like 30 years and this and third. And I mean, I was waking up every day like 30 years to retire. And I'm like, man, but you keep going with it because you're like, this is what I have. So you don't just quit what you have. The only advice I can definitely say to people that like are getting apartments or getting a house. One thing I did learn from another guy was I was about to pay for my furniture and everything cash, all the money that I saved up. He was like, no, don't go do that. And I was like, why? He was like, you have good credit. Use the credit to buy your furniture and stuff like that. Use the cash for things that you got to get from Walmart or different things that you really can't finance and pay off your debt before that interest hits. So it'll be just about the same. But at the same time, you'll have more liquid cash on hand. So I did that. I went and financed my furniture and stuff and paid it off before the year. You know, they like 0 interest for a year and I paid it off. But I definitely tell people to pay it off because if you don't, all the interest accumulates and it will hit you at the end. Retirement and stuff, I really wasn't thinking about it. And then I had a dramatic turn in my career and life. And that's probably what led me to here today. This was early 2016. Life was good. I literally just got a new car into 2015. March 12th, 2016. I was out at the club with my friends, having a good time, way too many drinks, leave the club. I'm driving, and next thing I know, I wake up to a flashing light and a knock on my window, and it was a police officer. And I'm like, what's going on? Little did I know, I had drove a few blocks away from the club. I called myself pulling over, so I was like, you know what, I can't drive. Let me pull over and go to sleep. But when I pulled over, I wasn't fully all the way pulled over. I was in between the last lane and kind of parked. So therefore, I was still blocking traffic. But in my head, being intoxicated, I thought I was helping the world, but I wasn't. They ran the numbers. I'm a police officer, no exempt from anybody else. So, ran me, booked me. I got a DUI, and I was sitting there like stuck. Like, what just happened? With the DUI and being a police officer and you having to drive, my license was in the District of Columbia, was suspended for 6 months. So my job was like, well, you can't drive. We can't really police. I literally lost my job. So this was the turning point. This was like the drastic change in my life where I'm hitting rock bottom. I have a house and I have bills and I'm like a new car and I just literally lost my job.
Okay. So we got to hit pause for a second here because this is a real nugget that we need to drive home. Life is going good. You're 24 years old. You just bought your own home. You have now purchased a new car. And
Yeah. I was about 27 at this point.
So you're 27, life is going well, and literally one night changed your life. It changed your finances, it changed your reputation, it changed your ability to earn an income. One night, too many drinks, probably drinks that cost a bunch of money too.
Yeah.
So let's just pause here and talk a little bit about the idea of mistakes that are made that are, super expensive, and you can't really add it up, but kind of off the top of your head, what did this cost you? It cost you your job, but
In cash,
yeah.
about $10,000 in cash. And funny that you say that because I see a billboard all the time when I'm driving now to my current job, which we'll get to. I see a billboard that says, "Don't drink and drive. It'll cost you $10,000." And I'm like, shake my head like, yeah, they about right. About $10,000. And literally in lawyer fees and classes that you got to take and this and that. If you get the ability to go this route, which I was luckily too, it cost me about $10,000. So when I got the DUI, I literally hired one of the best DUI lawyers in the District of Columbia. From there, he was able to get me, basically it's deferment or deference or something like that, where if you go do X, Y, and Z to show you good state, we'll throw it out. And by me having such a good record, prior military, being police, the fact that I actually wasn't driving and everything like that, I was able to get that part. So I had to literally go to all of these DUI classes, all of these drug classes and stuff. And I was like, man, you thought I'd have robbed somebody, but at the same time, like, that's how they want you to feel, so you won't do it again.
I mean, even then, we're talking about cost. You said $10,000 for the lawyer, the salary that you lost, the idea of losing your job, but then all the time that you had to invest in being able to clear your name so that you could continue forward. So every hour that you're busy doing one of those classes is an hour that you can't be working somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's yet another thing. Or if you got a new job, taking time off, that being a cost as well that people just don't think about sometimes. So
exactly.
I think, too, this is a good point to drive home about the emergency fund. And where did you find the money, or what did you do to figure out how to be able to pay this when this kind of crept up on you out of nowhere?
Definitely did. At this point, like I said, I was paying everything. And a couple years that I had worked at police, obviously you go Roth in a 401k and your thrift plan and everything. Some of those you can take loans against yourself. So with the retirement, I had probably like 25,000 saved up in the retirement so far. So I used about the 7 or 8,000 it cost to get my lawyer and to pay all of that off. And then even that went through. Like I said, got the deferment and everything like that. So I'm going through the classes, and I had a settlement with my job. Basically, they were saying, we don't think you're a bad person, but if you can't drive, we can't use you. So we're not going to fire you, but we're going to allow you to leave, resign on your own. So I resigned, and they gave me the option. Do you want to take your retirement out now and get taxed, or do you want to let it grow? I was like, I'll take the taxes, please. So I took the taxes, and I probably walked away with about 16,000 in cash in there. So I'm thinking to myself, I got to use this wisely to make it last. And luckily, before the DUI even happened, me and my now business partner, we both had always knew each other. He was prior Navy and everything like that. I seen him, and we always just bump shoulders, people that you never really talk to. And then one day he had a bike or a trike, like, the motorcycles with 3 wheels. And I was always seeing him like, man, like, you living a little too large to be in the military. He was like, oh man, I own a couple of rental properties. So I would start asking about rental properties, and he told me what I should do and everything like that. So with that mindset, as soon as the DUI came, I was like, man, while I'm still showing that I have income and still in that early stages, I need to start looking for a property. Maybe I can rent this one out as a third. So I ended up renting out the house. He introduced me to our future mentor, which is Dave Woolman. He introduced us to him, and he helped me find a property that I could move to, basically buy again, and which a lot of people don't know. If you're in the VA, you can split your VA loan. A lot of people think you have to use your VA loan one time, but your VA loan is equal to about $450,000. So if you don't use it all at once, you can split it and use it again. So I split it and used it to buy the property that I'm in now, ended up renting that one out. So I was able to find a source of income by starting my rental property. And then me and him were both like, the guy Dave had been flipping houses for about 25, 30 years. And we were like, Dave, like, what do we got to do to learn this flipping houses thing? He lives about 2 hours away from us. He was like, listen, I'll refer you guys some books and everything like that and help you along the way. But I live a little too far to be holding your hand. So if you read the books, I will make sure you all kind of go on the right path and kind of guide you as best I can. So at this point, I have nothing else to do. I'm unemployed, no income coming in except the money that I have. And I start reading the books. Me and my partner start reading the books. We start sticking our head down in the knowledge. We went to a few of those investment classes and stuff. If you go to those investment classes, sit in and take the knowledge. I don't recommend buying in. It's because a book has the knowledge. But a lot of people say if you put $1 million in a book, a lot of people won't read it. But we started reading it and everything like that. And then right from there, we started diving in head first. Everything that we were reading, everything that he was mentoring us with, everything he started teaching us, we started trying to become flippers and everything like that, looking for properties and figuring out what we were going to do. And from there, we literally found our first property, I think August of 2016. So I think I lost my job in March, found my first flip in August of 2016. I basically survived those other months until then. And then from there, me and my business partner was like, look, well, one, we want to get in here and learn how this is done. And two, if we do it ourselves, we'll save a lot of money. So we got in there. We hired contractors too, but we were in there doing a lot of the work.
You're deciding to move from your previous occupation to flipping homes. Do you go get a real estate license? If you do it yourself, you'll save a lot of money. But do you have any knowledge or expertise in flipping homes or fixing them up or all the things that need to be done?
Zero. I mean, at this point, the books give you a lot of knowledge. You read the books. But like I said, our mentor, Dave, he helped us in best he could via phone or things like that. So he gave us a lot of knowledge. But with flipping houses, one of those things like you don't learn it until you get in it. If you're not in it, it's no real way to just sugarcoat it or take somebody's hand and everything like that. You got to literally take the time to invest and get in it. So coming from one police job and then going to this, because obviously I had no choice. I had to make something happen. I was handy by having my own house. I can use a drill, I could screw, I could saw, I could do some things, but I wasn't no professional by far. But at this point, I had to become a professional very fast because this is taking my time. I took the money that I ran into and invested, me and my partner, and we also found some people to invest in our business. I don't want to skip over the investment part, but what me and my partner said to ourselves is we got to find this more appealing to get into. So to flip a house, we use what we call as hard money. Hard money is somebody that's going to loan you the money for a short period of time with a high interest rate, and you're expected to get the money back to them really fast, within 8 months to a year versus 30-year mortgage. So we did that. And then with hard money, you have to come up with the closing cost money. And sometimes the closing cost money plus the renovation money is about $50,000, $60,000. So you're wondering like where you're going to get that from. So me and my partner were scratching our head the same way, like where are we going to get that from? We kind of thought to ourselves like, man, we got to make this appealing to people. We got to give people a reason to want to do this. People want to invest. People want to flip houses, but they don't want to get their hands dirty. So we said, man, let's just give them a high interest rate and tell them we'll get it back to them. And we did that. We reached out to his dad, his mom, a couple friends that we knew. And we were like, look, we'll give you 20% interest rate on this return in 6 months if you're willing to believe that we can get into this house, get it remodeled and fixed and sold. Me and my partner put in $10,000 a piece of our own because of the money that I had saved over.
So the money that you had, the $16,000 that you cashed out from your previous job,
I used 6 of it to live off.
You lived off 6, and then you used the other 10 to invest in your next opportunity, which is flipping.
Yep. $6,000 does not go that far, but if you wanted to go that far, you'll make it go that far. So I stretched it.
Did you have some sort of way that you were monitoring your budget at that point?
Nah, I just took the money. I knew how much I was going to have to pay in mortgage or whatever. And like I said, I have the rental property. So $400 or $500 extra is coming off of there. So I was just balancing that to make sure I can pay my mortgages, pay my bills, and eat. And that was it.
And where's your family in all of this? You talk about coming from humble beginnings and having all these brothers and sisters. Is your family looking at you and thinking like, wow, now you have 2 homes and you're starting this business. You must be rich. And despite the fact that you're living off of 6,000, are they thinking that you're maybe living a different scenario?
Some are, some aren't. As much as I explained to my parents or my mom at the time, my mom and stepdad had already separated. My stepdad ended up moving down to South Carolina, and I became the feeder for everybody. Like hey, I'm in trouble. I need this. I need that. So for my mom, I ended up taking care of her, my sister, and she knows I don't have a job and I'm trying to make it happen. But when you see it on social media, people are seeing it as like, oh man, you're doing so good. And this and third, can I borrow this? And I'm like, did you remember the part about me not having a job at all? And all the money I have has been invested into this property. So from the outside looking in, everybody sees HGTV and you flip houses. You're a millionaire. And then we're looking like, bruh, I am broke. Like not kind of broke, not like we can go out. Like I am broke. So it definitely changed my outlook on a lot of things too, because perception isn't everything real clear. Like I said, it's just me. So as far as I had nobody, I couldn't turn to my mom or my dad. Oh, so I didn't cover this, but my biological dad passed away at the end of 2014. So to add Barron to it, I didn't have anybody to really turn to like, hey, I'm in a bind. Can somebody dig me out? So it was really just me saying, let's dig myself out. With that being the case, like I said, I got up every day, went into this flip, into this property, doing it. Now, like I said, we hired contractors, and anything we didn't know, we looked over their back like, hey, could you show me how to do this just once, and then I can keep doing it? So we kind of finagled some knowledge out of some contractors so we can do the work without having to really pay somebody. Through that process, we flipped an entire house, got it on the market, and we got it sold. Got our first big check, got our money back, got our investors' money back, and that's what started what is Taylor Mills LLC right now. What is Taylor Mills? That's what we are, Taylor Mills Real Estate Investment Company, where we literally take your money and let your money make money.
So the first project you ever did was a success. You got the check. And then what did you do? This is the first big check you've seen since...
Since it was probably last year, right?
Okay, so not that long since you've seen the first check, but this is the first time that you've gotten kind of a lump sum of money?
Yeah, definitely the first time I've gotten a lump sum that was actually earned type thing. So, and I got my money that I invested back into it. I mean, obviously I did a little bit of shopping. It was around Christmas time. I definitely helped myself, but I was able to balance myself back out to put myself like, hey, I'm seeing some money. But that went extremely fast. I don't have a set income. I made the money off of there, and I was like, got my 10,000 back. And I was like, now what do I do? I need to find another one. And this is the part where you said, did I become a real estate agent? Not at that time. And I was searching and searching for the next property. Where's our next flip? It was just so hard to find the next one. So we went a while before we even found one. And we attempted, even with the money that we had, we found this burger franchise that we wanted to invest into. So we took the money, the 10,000 I just made. He took 10,000 he just made, and we had somebody else invest. We took that 30,000 and invested into this burger company and saying, boom, we want to buy. And as excited as we were, we thought, man, we went out to LA to meet with the owner. We were like, yeah, man, we're going to get this burger company. Yeah, we're finally going to break through. And that fell through also. Like, our debt to income ratio was too high. I had 2 houses, a car, and no income. So therefore, they're like, well, sir, we can't loan you much more money. And same thing for my partner. He has 2 rental properties, a car. So we were stuck. We was like, man, how many people can come up with $30,000 and still lose?
I think this is a really good point. Yeah. Because frequently people do, they get something, they set it aside and they say, okay, well, what can I do to make this money work for me? But there's a lot of different aspects of your financial story that you have to have in place in order to really be able to make that money work for you. And I think in low income communities, that's one of the biggest mistakes that we make is like, okay, I saved 2,000. All right, how could I go turn this into $1 million? And it's like, right. You've got to really put the steps in place in order to grow your money first and then start to invest second.
Exactly.
And have all the things on the front end clean and organized so that you can go ahead when it's time to, like you said, start having your money make money for you.
Exactly. So as quick as that door shut, we were like, man, what are we going to do? Luckily, we kept searching, found more properties, and then we just started like, yo, we need to market our name. We need to get Taylor Mills LLC out there. And then we came up with a slogan, which was let your money make money, pumped it on Instagram, Facebook. And the goal was, look, if you take your money and invest a minimum of $5,000 with us, we'll give you 20% back, which is $1,000, and get your money back to you within 4 to 6 months. And we were like, it's nowhere else you're going to go where you're going to get a 20% interest rate and get your money back that fast. And not only that, you're going to see what your money's doing. We promote on Instagram, Facebook, live videos of us flipping a house, and you're seeing a beautiful project. Luckily, me and my partner have an eye for seeing properties and what you can do to them and designing and everything and what the people want. So we literally took off with that, and people were really biting into it. They were like, man, I always want to flip a house. And people like to invest closer to home. Everybody likes the stock market and everything like that. But when you actually see where your money's at and see where your money's going, you feel a little bit more comfortable. At this moment right now, this is end of 2017. We found a property earlier this year, got that one flipped also, and get that one sold and having another property, which we have on the market right now. We have that one, and we have 3 other properties underway where we have gone from working in the houses ourselves to having full contractor teams, full design teams, to everything. But it definitely was a process of us starting from rock bottom and growing piece by piece from there. And then I recently passed my real estate license. I said I wanted to get my real estate license so I could cut the costs. And not only that, I can do the searching process for my houses and stuff like that. So that was the main reason for me getting it, was to help my investing side. So I am an agent also to help people find properties and to help myself find properties.
We're kind of in the present now. So let's go with, where are you now personally, financially? Like, are you taking the result of every flip and saving X percentage and putting X percent back into the company? Now you're an entrepreneur. There's no W-2 income, right? So how are you handling saving for retirement and building up the retirement funds and things like that?
Retirement is definitely on the table, but at the same time, it's not in my bank account. I'm still in the investment side. But I see that investing in yourself is a big project, and investing in yourself has a great outcome, but investing in yourself takes time. So when we do get a flip and we do have success off of it, we take a portion of that and we calculate about 4 months about how much we can live off of this. And then let's use the rest to either invest back into our properties or marketing or something like that. And that side of it, then I have the real estate side now where I can obviously help clients buy houses and sell houses. So I try to use that income as my running income. Like I said, the franchise didn't work out. So I went on and tried something else on my own. My business partner said it wasn't for him. So I just purchased, if anybody has ever heard of Grounds Guys USA, it's a landscaping company. They're backed by the Dwyer Group. People like Mr. Electric, Mr. Handyman, Mr. Rotor, all of these big time companies, they're a part of that group. And I just bought into that franchise. So I'll be bringing that to the PG County area. It's a high end commercial landscaping and just literally purchased that. So that'll be another project I'll be venturing into. Just a big thing about literally taking your money and investing it back in yourself to something bigger.
So what members of your financial entourage do you have now? Because you have Taylor Mills LLC as flipping homes, you are Keller Williams associate, and then you also have this other venture. So you got 3 different businesses that you're running. How do you manage all of the businesses? Do you have an accountant, a financial advisor?
I don't at this time. Keller Williams is kind of running itself. It's real estate. You're either helping somebody find a property or you're helping somebody sell a property. So those kind of come in as they come. The Taylor Mills one, my business partner is the on-the-ground guy, where he's out there managing the contractors and everything like that. So I'm the one that's in-house doing the accounting, doing the budgeting and everything like that. So I'm behind the computer more often. And now with the Grounds Guys, I literally bought in 3 days ago. So it hasn't fully started yet, but the same process will be the same, where I'm behind the computer, making sure everything's going in the process and doing the hiring, making sure everything's ran correctly. So I'll still be doing a lot of managing and everything. So it'll just be that. And then as it comes, I obviously have to grow and expand and hire people as that time goes. But it's all literally just happening right now. So I'm just kind of going with it on the fly. But we do understand that we're going to have to hire people and venture out and grow, because I can't do it all. So it's literally all in the mix right now, though. So it's happening.
I know you said that you're still coaching football in the midst of all of this as well. Can you talk a little bit about the way that a coach instilled in you the idea of being able to take care of your business and you wanting to instill that into others?
Yeah, definitely. So now I no longer coach at Parkdale High School. I coach at Eastern High School in DC. My clock literally goes wake up early, get on the computer, get out there to the contract houses, go from there straight to football practice, from football practice, get back in, check on clients. So it is pretty crazy. And like I said, and I don't mind working myself to the bone right now, because I feel like it was going to pay off later. But with my athletes, I really push for them to understand that football isn't at the end of the world. Everybody wants to go to the NFL, but probably 2 of you out of this entire county or state might go to the NFL. But you can all go to college, and it might not be for football, but you can all go to college. And if college isn't for you, there's the military. If the military isn't for you, there is a trade. If the trade isn't for you, you can become a real estate agent. And funny that happened is I literally just yesterday went to a Christmas ball at Keller Williams, and my mentee is one of the guys that I coached my first year at Parkdale. And I don't know how long ago it is now, but he's 21 now, and he touched base with me about 2 months ago saying, Coach, I really admire what you're doing with real estate. And I want to do the same thing, man. I want to be a real estate agent. I want to make things happen. I don't see myself doing the whole college thing. I want to do this. So since then, I pulled him under my wing, and this dude has been like flying, man. He's been studying like crazy. He's been doing everything he needs to do. He signed up for his class to be a real estate agent. So it's really like it touches home to see somebody that you met when he was just a kid, and turns out now that he wants to follow your path and see something and is that driven. My coach just helped me and drop knowledge in my ear, what I need to do. And now I'm helping him and drop knowledge on him. And now he's already ready to be into business at 21, where I didn't even start till now,
Right. I think that's one of the coolest things is when you're able to do something that you love, but also be able to give back while doing something that you love and to be able to share the different opportunities and the possibilities with someone because someone shared the opportunities and possibilities with you is just like a great opportunity.
Exactly. So it definitely touches home. And that's my main goal when I'm coaching is I want to coach great football athletes, but I understand that there's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of things that your parents might be able or not be able to do. So therefore, I want them to see that there are other options. So I like to come to practice looking one like a bum some days and two looking like a businessman some days. And the kids like, what do you do, coach? You come in all these different uniforms. Like, what do you do? And I just try to let them know I'm out here working just like everybody else. But at the same time, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, no matter what you decide to do. So I try to get them to understand that football is one thing, but life is going to still continue to come. So we got to make some options happen.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point is showing them the opportunities. Speaking of which, you said with so many different opportunities and being an entrepreneur with different gigs going on, what would you say is the hardest thing about entrepreneurship?
The hardest thing about entrepreneurship is sacrificing all the time and the struggle that's in between those. Being an entrepreneur is all cool and fun. Everybody thinks like, oh, you make your own schedule, you do what you want. And that's the hardest part because you make your own schedule. There's nobody to tell you to get up. There's nobody to tell you to go do this. There's nobody to say this. If you don't get up and do it, you don't eat. And there's no punching the clock. There's no set hours you have to put in. So I don't know. It's 12-hour days, 16-hour days, 4-hour days. Who knows, but at the end of the day, being an entrepreneur, if you're self-driven and self-motivated, you can do it. You have to be honest with yourself sometimes. You need that punch clock and that somebody to be there to actually tell you what's going on. Entrepreneur isn't for you.
That is a good message for everyone to hear. It's not for everyone. All right, so we're ready to wrap it on up. I got a few questions, kind of like a lightning round. You just short, kind of snappy answers.
Okay.
And so we'll just kick it off here with, you got $20 in your pocket right now. What do you spend it on?
Food and gas.
The necessities, simple things in life.
It's going somewhere. Yeah.
The most meaningful gift you've received, who was it from and why was it meaningful?
The most meaningful gift right now, it wouldn't be a tangible one, but the most meaningful gift I would say I received is from my football coaches understanding that hard work pays off. Whether it's sweat, whether it's work, whatever, hard work pays off if you just stick with it and push it out.
What is your best money habit?
My best money habit is knowing when to say I'm broke when I think I'm broke, but I'm not really broke. As in, I set a budget well above the normal $0 limit where I set a budget where I know I can go no lower than this because I will be completely tapped out. So therefore, knowing when my budget is and when to stop spending or just sit in the house for a couple of days.
Right. Okay. So what's your worst money habit then?
Food. I eat out way too much. That's the worst one the swiping habit. You swipe a little too much when you're out and you're like, did not mean to go this far.
Yeah, I think a lot of people sometimes get caught up in that. Food is a necessity. You got to eat. But do you need an appetizer, an entree, and a dessert, and 2 drinks?
Exactly.
What is the best advice you've ever received?
Man, I got a lot of good advice over the time. But I would say if it's worth struggling for, then the reward is probably there in the end. If you feel like the struggle is that tough, but the reward is at the end, go for it. Basically, follow your dreams. Don't let the struggle be the reason why you don't go after your dreams, and not living proof that the struggle is real, but the passion will keep you going and then the reward comes.
Some people say nothing worth having is easy. So if it's worth it, it's going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it to go after it. So
exactly.
Worst advice you've ever received?
A guy told me, he's like, it's 2 things you're never going to not be able to get rid of: the mortgage and not rid of your car note, which are false. You can have a car without paying a car note and you can get it paid off, and you can get a house paid off, or have somebody pay for your house by renting it out. That was the worst advice I ever heard. And I'm glad I was able to smash that early, that you do not have to always have a car note and you do not always have to live on a mortgage.
Yeah, so frequently we get in the mindset of scarcity and never feeling like we're going to have enough or we're always going to have to owe someone. And it's not true at all. Mm-hmm. It's about being organized and responsible with your finances in order to get ahead. And they said, get yourself debt free, but it is an option. It is definitely a possibility. You just got to really want it. All right. So at Worth Winning, we have 2 mottos. One of our mottos is you don't have to get it all right to be all right. So that's based on the premise that we all make mistakes, but the mistake is not what's crippling. It's your inability to deal with the cause of the mistake. And that's what causes catastrophe. And so with that being said, we don't want to make any mistakes, and everybody's always working on something. So my final question for you is, can you share one thing with us that you'd like to improve about your finances in the upcoming year?
Being able to balance all of my businesses and have personal funds to distinguish the two. I will put all my personal funds into my business and just live off of those, where I need to learn to separate myself from both of them and just make a balance or whatever. So that's my goal coming into 2018. I'm definitely going to make sure my businesses help me make more money to live comfortably off of and still help my businesses grow, where I don't have to, sacrifice everything.
So what is the action item to really make sure that that happens?
Financial planning, coaching, and better mentors. So that's what I'm using.
Yes.
Can't do it all on my own.
I think that's a really important thing to realize for a lot of people too, is that they can't do it all on their own. You can definitely be earning a living. You can definitely stay afloat, put some money aside, but there's people that are experts. You're an expert at what you do, and there are people who are experts at organizing finances, and feeling like that's something that's valuable to pay for so that you can continue to move forward toward your financial freedom and your financial goals is important.
I fully agree. So that's all the advice I got for everybody.
Yes.
Hopefully I can be back later on and have some better advice or a better story for other people, but I don't know. Am I wrapping up? I'm sorry.
You are wrapping me up. The last question was, where can we find you? Twitter handles, social media, etc. If people are looking for you, how do we find you?
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm at j.miller_the realtor on Instagram. On Facebook, I'm under Jason Miller. And then my business page is Taylor Mills LLC. That's TaylorMillz LLC, and that's where you can find us on pretty much everything.
And you'll find all of that in our show notes. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Jason. I hope you enjoyed listening to Jason's money memoir today. His personal journey includes multiple takeaway points for us. Football was his dream, but with the right influences, he was able to see other avenues and is now helping other young men do the same. He also talked about his friend Kobe being willing to have a discussion with him and how it changed his thinking. Both of these examples speak to the impact of having the right people around you. Him moving back in with his parents is an example of being strategic about the best way to get in a position to reach a goal. Setting pride aside and doing something that doesn't look cool in the short term may be the thing that sets you up for the long term. Perception doesn't matter. The plan that people can't see you executing does. We have 2 words of the day. The first, Federal Reserve. This is the central bank of the United States. Quite frankly, I had a hard time summing this up in a simple way for everyone to understand. That's why we have 2 words of the day. But here's my best attempt. The Federal Reserve is in charge of monetary policy, the stability of the financial system, monitoring individual financial institutions, and protecting us as the consumers. Second word of the day, mortgage. Yes, this is what you pay when you're working toward owning your home. When you rent, you're paying to stay there, but you don't get any ownership. Home buying does give you a place to call your own, but it comes with more responsibility than renting. You may be able to purchase something where your mortgage is the same amount as your current rent, and this could work out great. But don't forget about taxes, insurance, and maintenance. Sometimes taxes and insurance are included in the price you pay monthly, but make sure you understand whether or not that is true for you. Either way, you're still responsible for maintenance. When you rent and something breaks, you just call the landlord. But as an owner, this cost falls on you. Whether you choose to rent or buy, just make sure you're doing what's right for you, because it's different for everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. Please email us with questions, comments, or you can visit our website at worth-listening.com. We hope you found this episode worth listening to.